So I was on Resisting the Lies YouTube channel, a channel I would always recommend, and I'll leave you a link to the following video in the pinned comment. So the title, "We Need New Scots Because of Falling Birth Rates." Now, I've long, talked about this. None of it should be rocket science. After all, no country in the right mind historically goes out its way to discourage its population from having families and push a lifestyle that is the polar opposite of encouraging families, and do it from quite literally nursery school age onwards. Walls full of propaganda saying, you may identify as a wee boy, but you can identify as a wee girl, and we'll not tell your parents. Seriously. And everything's about LGBT, X, Y, and Z. Anything other than the embracement of family and family values by people who absolutely despise, for example, Christianity, while at the same time promoting the ideologies of things like humanism and various other occult ideologies, not least of which behind the scenes is, well, the theosophy, among other things, and the embracement of a technocracy and eugenics ongoing. And you certainly wouldn't get people from other countries where demonstrably the IQ's lower, that they have a far poorer skill set, and yet these people who have no allegiances to our countries and who are absolutely the beneficiaries of an ideology that utterly destroys the host nation, and which is basically what the United Nations is all about. The destruction of individual countries to be replaced by a world government, and run under a technocracy. They know what they're doing. Their belief system is utterly insane, and it completely, on the long term, is anti-life, because they keep saying there's too many people. Well, what's the last thing you want to have when you believe there's too many people out there? Intelligent, smart individuals that can see it. You could go into much more detail, and I have no idea who this individual is, and obviously, at some stages, I was thinking, is he going to burst into some kind of rap song or something? We'll look at the body language, and under fair use, pausing occasionally. Let's play this.
This fear of immigration has always caused much more damage than any sort of immigration ever could.
Sorry, mate, what?
People think of the bad examples, the minority of stories where there has been a situation or a case that has negatively affected a community, and focus on that.
Oh, you mean, for example, the raping of women, for example, as an example. Yes, and apparently their legal representation said, look, they didn't know what, values were over here. They've got a different way of life. They didn't realize, seriously? Yeah.
Rather than amplifying and considering the huge...
Do you see what I mean about, what is it? Is there a beatbox about to kick in the background? You see what, cool for the kids?
Massively positive contribution that thousands of individuals have made to other countries they've gone to throughout the pages of history and in recent times. And let's also remember that a lot of the people who are coming to our shores and other parts of Europe are moving from places that we bear responsibility for damaging.
And what is that? Seriously, is the insinuation, for example, I don't know, the first Gulf War where they left the baddie in charge, remember? Saddam Hussein, he needs to be taken out. No, first Gulf War, go in there, kick ass, but we leave the dictator in charge. Second Gulf War, now we need to finish the job, blah, blah, blah. But, if you're a cynical individual that was, that could see that there were some people out there hell-bent on the destruction of nations, and to encourage people to leave their home countries and go elsewhere, and incentivize them to do so, and treat them better than the very people, the host nations of which they come to. And forgive all. Yeah, that is, they're ripping up passports and they're whatever else, and they're into 4-star hotels and first in the queue for everything. And the excuse, at least in some parts, certainly when it comes to the SNP, etc., the part of the Uni Party, obviously, ultimately the UN puppets, is to bring people who are, well, they're certainly not educated to the same standards. Many of them can't even speak English. They need interpreters, all the rest of it. Many of them are less than motivated to integrate in any way, shape, or form, and have been told that white people, by and large, the inference is, we're oppressors, we're this, we're that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and all I've ever said is anybody who's been told that in their school career and their experience of the education system has not read books like The Road to Wigan Pier by George Orwell, as an example. Yeah, we, as native people in the UK, have never really had it easy. Never. Yeah, really. Yeah. And we're being demonized, and we're being told things like this.
Of Europe are moving from places that we bear responsibility for damaging.
Just remember, and it was back when Tony Blair was still the head puppet in, fronting the civil service. Weapons of mass destruction, all the rest of it. And he never said he knew, he said he believed. And over 1 million people were in London protesting any kind of interaction, war like whatever, but it meant nothing. And they still went ahead and did it. But when you look at the bigger picture, it was about creating so many problems that you have the levels of migration ongoing because people have left their host countries because they're being told to and incentivized to do so. And passing so many safe countries, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then through France, and yet dinghy surf or do whatever else to get across to here and are put up. And you see things like this. Homeless refugee crisis could lead to service cuts. I mean, I had no idea just how bad the amount of apparently basically all asylum seekers, refugees, and its effect on the running of Glasgow. And people have to pay more for less because of all of our uninvited guests who can't even, many of them, speak the English language. And remember, the subliminal is they're all doctors and rocket scientists. And even if that was true, why would you be taking from third world nations professionals who are needed in their host country? None of it makes sense unless you realise it's about a global picture of dumbing down, destroying Western nations, homogenizing everything, and through this thing called, that you've been hearing promoted, global citizenship, you're going to be told not that far away, listen, you're not getting any jobs locally? Well, you need to go to China, India, whatever else, because we're all global citizens. This is not only about lowering of birth rates, it's about shredding families, histories, you name it, based on an ideology.
Iraq, Afghanistan, and many others. And let us think, in the shoes of those who come here, how it must feel to leave somewhere, to travel across continents.
Remember, so many bloody safe countries, but they've been told, you go to the UK, you'll be treated better than their own people. And it's demonstrably so.
And then arrive and be subject to a system that is often extremely difficult for them to cope with.
Yeah, because they can't even speak the English language. They have next to zero bloody skills. But so many, more by the bloody day when I'm out and about, have got their heads in their own phones, walking about during the day. They're not even employed. Yeah?
And mentally and psychologically. I recognise and respect that immigration is an important issue for my constituents and elsewhere in Scotland. it's something.
Really, who are those constituents that say, do you know what, fuck us, let's just focus on people that were uninvited guests, basically.
Something I've thought about deeply, particularly as MSP for Leith, a port, an area that has welcomed people for decades, whether it was the Irish in the 19th century.
See what I mean about this body language? It's like, you know, hip and happening with the kids, with the cool kids. Oh, it's embarrassing.
I recognise and respect that immigration is an important issue for my constituents and elsewhere in Scotland. And it's something I've thought about deeply, particularly as MSP for Leith, a port, an area that has welcomed people for decades, whether it was the Irish in the 19th century, Italians, Indians and Pakistanis in the 20th, and more recently from Poland and Ukraine and America and China and elsewhere, all of whom have added to our community and also adopted a sense of being proudly Scottish.
Oh, a sense of being proudly Scottish. That they're having a really great life here at the expense of the rest of us. Yeah, right, okay.
Let us be clear that the vast majority of people who come here are very positive contributors. That is a fact.
No, you can say it with as much passion as you like. Oh my God. I mean, honestly, this body language is a disgrace. But they haven't got the skill set. They haven't got the intellect. By and large, they haven't got close to the embracement of what we hold dear. But we're being told we need these generally uneducated individuals that we by and large don't know who they are. And of course that ties into well, this is why we need a digital ID and then ultimately a chip under the skin, because biometrics won't just work well enough. But you'll still have your phone, but you'll have a chip under the skin, whether it be back of the forehead or whatever else. And all of a sudden things will be much easier for you to do transaction-wise as long as the government's involved in it from start to finish. Let's carry on.
Economically, they are net contributors and
they're net contributors. Tell me, why is it that the Glasgow Council is struggling just now? If these people are net contributors, they should be over the bloody moon. Well, I've got so much money to spare because these people are net contributors. No.
They bring something to our communities, creating multicultural and intercultural diversity.
Interconnected. It just keeps tying into the UN goals. It absolutely does. Yeah. Everything is about the destruction of individual nations. Histories. Races, essentially. Yeah. I mean, good God, we used to embrace that. You know, we used to embrace about why Brits have been Brits. You know, their attitude, the spark, the character. The go-getter attitude. Same with the Americans, all the rest of it. This is why we were so successful as Western nations. Because of the level of intellect right across the classes. Yeah? None of that anymore.
With minorities adding to a strong and inclusive collective embrace.
Because collectivism is the way forward. The hive mind, all the rest of it, yeah?
Of Scottish culture.
It's like doublespeak, you know. It's the polar opposite of Scottish culture.
This is what our new Scots do in the vast.
Our new Scots. And remember, another proponent of that, well, another one that shouted about that a lot was Nicola Sturgeon, and it turns out she's fucking off to London at some point. Yeah.
Majority. Now, I'm passionate about the benefits of immigration, as you can probably hear, but I also agree that while people are welcome, of course, we need to have a controlled system. That is not. Which
ties into the digital ID. Remember, multitasking is what these fuckers are all about, but you know, any occultist listening, wouldn't it be too... He's not really selling it, is he? I want a muppet.
Controversial to say. Every country has that. And we, as a party, have always been clear about that. Membership of the European Union and also a points-based...
Remember, Scottish National Party that's not nationalist, that embraces collectivism, and even if you believe anything about even, you know, Europe, right? It's been a vassal state in a collective. Yeah, these passionate Scots.
System. That was the position in 2014. It is a serious position. And of course, if boats were landing here in Scotland...
See, there's another terminology that I wonder about the propagandists, etc. Well, what would you normally relate to in the past? That, even if yeah, okay, we're now at Gen Z and whatever. And I'm not slagging you guys and girls off. I realise the education system has just got so much worse. Because, Gen X at least, certainly early Gen X, remembered, through a reasonably decent education system that boats on shores were usually involved in, well, military actions. Seriously, yeah. D-Day, Dunkirk, you name it, yeah. But boats on shores now are things to be embraced. Think about this. They've not respected any of your country's laws or anything like that. No, we'll just fuck you. We'll just ignore all that and we'll arrive on boats because you're telling us actually that's a better way to get in here.
Position. And of course, if boats were landing here in Scotland...
Think about this, yeah? Like Dunkirk.
We would need a system to manage that.
Honestly, listen, I'll repeat. Any of you occultists watching, obviously he's a waste of space. You can do better than this toss bag.
But the question more broadly is about while it's about the rate and the level of inward migration and what that would mean for Scotland, we need to consider thoughtfully and sensitively and rationally, without taboo, about the fact that in Scotland we need to bring more people here. The fact is, we need more. So
basically, what you're confessing is we've been an utter disgrace as regards the education system, and in every aspect of what we do, we have made the country worse. And our solution to that is not to fire ourselves on the spot. No. Let's just get essentially, let's. It's a fact here. By and large, dumber people from other places to fill apparent jobs that nobody in this country can no longer can any longer do. It's there in plain sight, and oh dear God, it's just outrageous when you think about it. The shamelessness, and they're saying we need to bend over backwards for people who are lesser by and large than ourselves skill base wise. Or, if they have the skills, take them from third world nations that bloody need those people with skills.
Working age people to be here because of our demographics and our low birth rates, and they enrich our communities. And I would say that this issue is completely reserved just now, but there are solutions that can be found. And while we continue to consider how Scotland could build a different migration system, let us embrace the tradition, the long tradition of the warm Scottish welcome.
Look, we're a fucking failure as a nation, apparently. You've just admitted it. We can't even fucking replace our own. But we're not looking into why. Like, for example, the food system, the exposure to various plastics and various other toxins that they absolutely knew was actually going to lower things like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, you name it. All of that. No, we'll not look at any of that. Seriously, none of it. It's an interconnected death cult, and it is an occult religion. And they're utterly shameless about what they're doing. Anyway, your thoughts, and I'll speak to you soon.